Black Light History, your daily dose of births, deaths, and events in African American history. I'm your host, Big A. It's July 19th. I'm glad you're here. Let's get into it. On this day in 1941, the first air training classes began at the Tuskegee Institute. 13 cadets and 1 student officer began their ground training with the program. These students would become the backbone of the Tuskegee Airmen. Happy 37th birthday to NFL offensive tackle Trent Williams. A 2-time All-Big 12 selection for the OU Sooners, Williams was the 4th pick in the 2010 NFL Draft by the Washington Commanders. In his now 16-year career, Williams is a 4-time All-Pro and an 11-time Pro Bowler. He currently plays for the San Francisco 49ers. On this day during the Red Summer of 1919, the Washington Race Riot would begin. Sparked by just a rumor of a black man threatening a white woman, white mobs began openly attacking black people in the streets. It would soon escalate to attacking businesses and homes. With no help from the police in sight, the black residents began arming themselves and fighting back. After 4 days of violence, President Woodrow Wilson finally called in the National Guard. Heavy rains helped the Guard quell the fighting. No exact number was ever given on the amount of lives lost, but there were over 150 reported injuries. On this day in 1950, Elston, Howard, and Frank Baines became the first black players to sign with the New York Yankees. Howard would go on to have his number retired by the team. Happy 38th birthday to former UFC champion John Bones Jones. Despite his controversies, Jones is considered one of the greatest UFC fighters in history. With a record of 28 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss, Jones is one of 8 fighters to have held belts in 2 different weight classes, as he is the former light heavyweight champion and heavyweight champion. Jones would retire from the sport earlier this year. Today we remember the lynching of 30-year-old Ruben Stacy in Broward County, Florida. Stacy was accused of frightening a white woman, Marion Jones, with a knife on June 16th. Apparently he had come to her door to ask for a drink of water. When she turned around to fetch him some, he attacked her. She would fight him off, and he ran away. 50 men were arrested and brought to her house for identification. She would point out Stacy as the culprit. On this day in 1935, while being transported back to jail, a mob of white men took Stacy from the officers, and he was brought back near Jones's home, where he was lynched with her own clothesline, then shot. Although the NAACP brought national attention to the case, not one of the reported 1,000+ people that was there was ever charged with Ruben Stacy's murder. On this day in 1973, New York Met and future Hall of Fame player Willie Mays was selected to his record 24th All-Star game. With the appearance, Mays would tie a record held by Stan Musial. Happy 61st birthday to former basketball player Terresa Edwards. The 1982 Georgia High School Player of the Year, Edwards was a 2-time All-American point guard for the University of Georgia. Edwards would become a member of Team USA in 1984. She would win 2 FIBA World Championships and was a 4-time Olympic gold medal winner, winning at Los Angeles, Seoul, Atlanta, and Sydney. She would win a bronze medal at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. A 4-time USA Basketball Female Athlete of the Year, she would last play professional basketball with the Minnesota Lynx in 2004. She's been inducted into the FIBA, Women's Basketball, and Naismith Memorial Basketball Halls of Fame. Happy 57th birthday to Hall of Fame safety LeRoy Butler. The Jacksonville, Florida native would play his college football under Bobby Bowden of the Florida State Seminoles. A consensus All-American, Butler would be drafted in the 2nd round of the 1990 draft by the Green Bay Packers. Butler would spend his entire 12-season career with the Packers, with a career total of 38 interceptions, 20.5 sacks, and 13 forced fumbles. Butler would be named to the NFL's 1990s All-Decade team. A 4-time All-Pro, he would win Super Bowl 31 in a 35-21 win over the New England Patriots. Butler would be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2022. Today we remember the life of sportscaster Stuart Scott. Born on this day in 1965, he was a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity while playing football at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He would graduate from the school with a bachelor's degree in speech communication in 1987. He would begin his broadcasting career on the radio. In 1990, Scott would get a sports anchor and reporting job at NBC Orlando. He would soon begin working at ESPN2 doing a nightly sports smash. It wasn't long before he was a co-anchor of The Big Show, ESPN SportsCenter. Scott would revolutionize how the show was done. He would attract a younger audience to the network to watch nightly sports news. With his timely and funny catchphrases, it wasn't long before everyone was trying to replicate his style. By the year 2000, Scott was not only a sports icon but a cultural staple as well. So it was a shock that after an appendectomy, he was diagnosed with cancer in 2007. He would semi-publicly go through a cycle of treatments, remissions, remissions. In 2013, the cancer would come back again. This time, after over 58 rounds of chemotherapy, multiple radiation treatments, and pills, Scott would succumb to the disease on January 4, 2015. He was only 49 years old. A cancer foundation in his honor was soon created. On this day in 1983, Boston boy band New Edition released their debut album, Candy Girl. The title track would top the Black Singles chart. New Edition would spark the solo careers of Ralph Tresvant and Bobby Brown, and the group Belle Biv DeVoe, making them arguably one of the greatest groups ever assembled. Happy birthday to former NBA player LaMarcus Aldridge. The 6'11 center was a parade All-American at Seagoville High School in Texas before joining the Texas Longhorns in 2004. In 2006, Aldridge would be named to the first team All-Big 12 team and the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Aldridge would declare for the 2006 NBA draft and was taken with the second overall pick by the Chicago Bulls, but his rights were traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. Aldridge would play 16 seasons in the NBA with over 20,000 points. He would average 19.1 points per game with 8.1 rebounds. A 5-time All-NBA selection, he would retire in 2022. Finally, we would like to remember the life of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Born in New York in 1950, Jackson Lee would graduate from Yale with a bachelor's in political science and earned her Juris Doctorate from the University of Virginia in 1975. Jackson Lee and her husband, Elwyn Lee, would move to Texas for her husband's teaching position at the University of Houston. In 1987, she would be appointed a municipal judgeship before taking a seat on the Houston City Council in 1989. Jackson Lee would run for Congress in 1994 and won Texas's 18th district seat. Jackson Lee would spend 29 years in the House, sitting on the Homeland Security, Judiciary, and Budget committees. Jackson Lee would win the Crescent of Pakistan, the nation's highest civil award, in 2020. Declared cancer-free in 2012, sadly Sheila Jackson Lee would announce in June of 2024 that she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and was in treatment. On this day, July 19th, she would pass away at the age of 74. She is only the second person to ever lay in state at the Houston City Hall. President Joe Biden would come pay his respects, former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries would speak at the service. Sheila Jackson Lee's Alpha Kappa Alpha sister, Vice President Kamala Harris, delivered the eulogy. That concludes today's events. If you've enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. You can find us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And remember, African American history is American history. So join us again tomorrow as we shine another light on Black Light history.